tumble and roll and eventually end up in sand. When you stop that process, that's when you end up with a great catastrophe, which is what we have here. And I probably didn't answer your question.
But I can see what you're talking about, kind of like if you're on a water slide, you're coming down straight, you're going to go straight and then stop. And if you're on one of those that are crooked,
You go slower.
you go, yeah.
Exactly. I've never used that explanation, but I will from now on.
Hey,
That is awesome.
and use the stopper in the tub too.
Now I'll say this: the stopper in the tub. You use that as an example. Now the problem is, what we have is just one drain size, and you're dumping all your water into the bathtub and just letting it gush. What we need to do is slow the water getting to the bathtub. If the bathtub was your stream, now your bathtub is the stream. I can't stop the rain, until I go to heaven and I convince God that I'm smarter than Him.
Right.
So, and that's not going to happen. So right now we can't stop the amount of rain.
I agree with
So
that.
all we can do is stop the amount of rain getting to the stream at the rate that's getting. Okay? And there's only two ways to do that. Which cities don't like to hear it, and we're working with Madison County and Richmond for the same processes, is the cities have to slow the water down leaving the city, and the counties have to do that also. It's a very mutual process. You can't do one without the other, and you can't do it all at one time. You have to kind of baby step into it. But you do have to start somewhere.
Right.
And slowing the water down is the best way. So when we remove the sediment, that's the only resistance the stream has, is the rocks in the stream. So when we remove all those rocks, you're back to the straight water slide.
Well, I think a product of the other consultant that is doing the stormwater study for the city should be, where are there opportunities within the drainage system in the city to retain that water for whatever period of time you need to put that hydrograph behind the ones coming through here, and then all of a sudden that increases capacity for everything.
That's what we talked about today for over an hour with our GIS and our 911 GIS mapping.
That's exactly the way you do that. Is you inventory the city, you identify opportunities to slow the water down, and then you develop projects around that. And each one of those projects holds back that little bit of water for a little bit of time, while the water from the mountains comes through, and then all of a sudden, relief over the entire system.
And I would refrain from using retaining walls everywhere. That's not the way you protect it. Because what you're doing is you're making the water pick. I call them time release capsules. Same thing with Gabion baskets. Well, that too. Gabion baskets, if y'all ever, I'll jump off a bridge if you
It's
ever.
a wire basket filled with rocks.
If y'all ever put one of those in another stream, I'll jump off a bridge. Seriously. It makes me want to vomit. Sorry, I'm not articulate with some words. But the Gabion baskets are the worst use of money that a city could ever use. Or a county.
Hopefully this road department's not here.
Yeah. But no, I would tell them. We go, look, that's going to work. And the next thing you do, you concrete it. What do you do after you concrete it? You re-concrete it. We say, teach it a lesson. That'll do it. It doesn't work. Water will cut steel. So it will cut rock and concrete, especially aggregate. So you got to change the physics behind what the water's doing.
You do that by stabilizing the
And
stream.
that's what Rick's talking
And that's
about.
what we're talking about in this project, would be attempting to stabilize this area, at the same time putting in some nice features for habitat, nice features for the community. So that's kind of the approach to what we're doing here. Let's see, final, here's the educational component. Adding habitat-friendly wetlands and pools, and environmental signage that, I talked about that. We backed up in slides, didn't we?
I did, just to show her what she
We talked about those features.
That's the next slide where we should be on.
Okay, well that's a miniature version of what we've got right here. And there's the sinuosity that we're attempting to reestablish. Here are the natural stream design features that are made to slow the rate of flow and to channelize it in, all in the hopes of stabilizing the bank, reducing that sediment carry off of the banks, and focusing the stream on staying in the stream, which is what we all want to have happen. Let's talk about economic benefit. Increased scenic areas, access points, and fishing quality will generate tourism revenue for the community. Right now you're saying, there's no way in God's green earth anybody's going to pay to come fishing in what this looks like now.
Does anybody, does anybody smallmouth fish? You do? Where do you go to smallmouth fish?
I've been all over, but I've actually caught smallmouth right below.
Where do you go
dam right here.
frequently? Where would you rather go for smallmouth fishing?
Well, I go up in Northern Ohio, Michigan.
Oh, so not right here in Triplet Creek, where you could have awesome, wow. See, we can fix that.
A study done by Arkansas State University, which is Jeremy's alma mater.
Yeah.
Potentially 10,500 people will use a similar stream for fishing and floating annually, which could generate up to $2 million a year in revenue. There's no reason to think that we couldn't create a destination here with a little work, a little community backing and pride. You know, I think this is something that could definitely be pulled off. My favorite one, 2012 study of stream degradation across the Central Appalachians. That's where we are. Estimates that for every kilometer of stream with the absence of sport fishing translates to a loss of anywhere from $6,000 to $15,000 annually. And a couple other studies talking about just the amount of money that's generated in smallmouth fishing or fishing in general in streams. People like to stand in streams and fish. This is our contact information. That's me on the left, April's on the right. This gives you a flavor of what it is we're trying to do. Now, I've not talked with April about the details of how she is proposing to finance with the city and the county and the university. I was thinking, Joe, what was it, like a 60-40?
Yeah,
Like
it'd be
the
40%,
split.
60, 60% grant funding.
Okay. So I think that's the type of investment she's looking for from the city. She said, please go and let them know kind of what it is that we're doing. This is what we're doing. Can I answer any questions anybody has?
Have y'all done one of these before?
Not
Yeah.
like this. Not this size, but we've done lots of stream mitigation projects. There's not very few.
This is an opportunity that doesn't come around very often.
Yeah,
for
that's what I'm trying to
this
say.
type of setting.
To do with the ecotourism. Now, I'm not an ecotourism specialist.
Close to this size?
Yes, yeah, we've done lots of streams.
Whereabouts? I'd like to see one.
A lot of eastern Kentucky, mostly headwater systems.
For example?
Yeah, give me a.
Moorhead, not Moorhead,
Olive Hill?
no, I'm trying to think. West Liberty over in Morgan County. A lot of headwater systems that are the bankful width, which what we would call this as a bankful width of like, say, 70 feet. The most of the streams that we work with is everywhere that thus far has been bankful widths of between 10 and 30 feet.
Got an address where I can go look at one?
Up in Ohio, I can take you a look at those. In that area, we went up and looked at those. Complete different concept.
I wanna go too.
Okay.
You can ride with Bruce.
Okay.
A complete different concept. In that area, what we were doing,
You're the one that didn't want to run again, so don't
in
start.
that area, up in Ohio, the one we worked with, we had to balance, it was for Miller Coors Brewing. Their water was getting contaminated from runoff from the city because they were dealing with similar issues you were, except for all the fecal coliform and all the stuff from a city was flowing into their floodplain, which was percolating into the ground, which is where they're pumping the water. Likewise, during peak flow periods, they had a school and a housing area being flooded. So what we did, we redesigned the stream channels to slow down the water and created a wetland and a bottomland hardwood system to absorb all that water so it wouldn't percolate out. So but as far as this size, no. But the physics behind it are the same. Absolutely the same. It's just 2 + 2 is 4, no matter how you look at it.
How, tagging on Bruce's question there, some of the ones you've done, what's the one that you have that's the longest in service? I know you can't tell me right now.
No,
But you've got some that are several years in service?
No, the longest one we've done, the longest one I designed was not completed because of a presidential election 8 years ago. We designed it was a 25-mile stream restoration project in near Trapp, Kentucky.
Mhm.
And it was for East Kentucky Power. We designed it, everything was approved through the state, the Corps of Engineers and everybody. And it was everything from this size all the way up to a stream that was 2 feet. We were doing it was 13,000 acres watershed. And that one, once it got designed and approved, because of the policies with coal mining, East Kentucky Power decided not to pursue a coal-fired power plant, so therefore they didn't develop the project, and that was the largest. But most of our projects are between, say, about 2 miles long.
Have you been down past the 519 bridge, around that way?
Which one's that?
Over by Save
That
Life.
goes past
That goes to West Liberty.
the train trestle?
Yes.
Yes,
We walk-
absolutely.
yes.
In fact, our
Yeah, we
reference
still- we
reach
still
is
look at it.
downstream of that, which makes this area really great, because if you go downstream, I'd show a picture of that, and people would say, I can't believe that's near Moorhead, Kentucky. It's that
When
beautiful.
he says reference reach, that's
Yeah,
the
sorry.
ideal of what we would like it to look like.
Yep. So before now, see all these bows, this is for illustrative examples only. It's just to give you an idea. It takes a lot of engineering and a lot of science that goes into it. That's just to kind of show you we got to put some bins in. We have a reference reach established. It's there's a trailer park. What's that road?
It's out 16 trailer park on
Yeah,
the left.
there's
that
a
goes
trailer
down,
park. It's a nice trailer
and
park I've
there's
ever
a
seen.
row in the creek right there.
Yes, nicest place I've ever seen. Well, back there they gave us permission. We established a reference reach out there, and you will find there's a reason why there's probably $500,000 homes back behind it versus up here, because the stream's beautiful. You'll never find $1 million home looking at a stream that looks like crap. You just won't. That's why. That's.
See, I think creeks are supposed to be beautiful, like at the park.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Beautiful. They're supposed to be beautiful, not look like what they look like at the park.
Right.
Yeah. And
Cedar bed.
exactly. And the other thing that's really hard for people to grasp is streams are supposed to flood. I can't prevent that. Bears, they want to eat. A mountain lion wants to eat. So if you're in a mountain lion area and you get ate, you're where the mountain lion is supposed to eat. I can't stop that. A stream is supposed to flood. Okay? Now now we also can't move our communities. And we recognize that. And in Madison County, we're working with Judge Taylor right now. And I went through this I have a whole nother presentation to teach about streams. It's not for this venue right now. But one of the things that he appreciated was the education he got behind it. And there's a couple of things that he learned from it is streams, the water, we can't stop the water. And what we did a study in Madison County where we modeled the impervious surface over the years. Like since 1940 maybe. Now that data is old and it's not as accurate as the satellite data now. But we modeled it and they were surprised. They were overwhelmed on how much impervious surface it was. So what's happening is the water's hitting our streams. They're hitting it quicker and they're rushing down it. So you have this peak flow and then it crashes.
You know what ours is, don't you? In the city of Moorhead, over 90%.
Impervious surface.
Right. Yeah. And so
So somewhere you gotta find opportunities.
It was probably 20 in 1970.
You gotta
Yeah,
find
exactly.
opportunities to slow that down before it gets to the stream.
Yeah.
And to answer your question, I did that very thing for the city of Hopkinsville. Did a full stormwater management plan, introduced a stormwater utility, passed a stormwater utility, established minor and major projects, and they're in their 10th year now of that program, and they no longer flood in the areas they used to flood.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
Yep.
it can work.
yeah, it's not one. Let's go put in some J hooks and cross veins, what we call their natural stream
It's a
structure.
community-wide.
It slows down the velocities, and we're working. You asked a question about where we're working on this. We're working on it right now. We'll be done in a week in this stream.
The one,
In a-
the one thing the county's done, though, Tammy, is American Legion property. That they're using that as through April 2, guys,
Mm-hmm.
and they're using that as an overflow to slow it down when it's going downstream.
Yeah.
We purchased that maybe 6 months ago, something like
Mhm.
that.
Um, And it's not like I can buy like that property and say I'll fix the flooding problem. This is years, and it took years to create it. And we were out on Tate's Creek and out on this Otter Creek. That's the two streams that are cursed in Madison County. And although landowners that's been there said, my grandfather farmed this for years. It never has happened in the last 10 years. It's been going on. Well, when you model that, you show the impervious surface. We just finally reached its carrying capacity, and now we put as much concrete as we can in an area, and we're flushing it down one stream. And it's baby steps. It's like with you, when we do this won't stop the flooding. This will be real pretty and it'll let you see what the structures look like. But before we get this done, by January, Friday, we'll be done over here at the apartments. You can come look at what that changed the stream bank in that area. And you can't use that as a course to say, let's channelize it, put in these structures. It's really, how do we slow the water down and create a nice sinuous stream and allow the water to flow? But and it starts at the city and comes down. And you start with small list, big list, and you really create a mission,
It's
a program.
So what you're saying is 45 years since it was cleaned out. We could be working on it every day for the last 17 months, and it's a work in progress, what you're saying. There's no magic light switch or
Yeah,
a valve.
it's not a lot.
It's
That's what I thought.
gonna take 100 small projects and maybe 30 or 40 major projects in order to get to where, the stream can start to stay back in its bank. Now, you get a 100-year flood like you had the one that completely
We've
overtopped
had
the
two since
wastewater plant.
2010.
Yeah, you get that, all bets are off. I mean,
Yeah.
that's wrath of God type of stuff.
Right.
And it seems like it's happening more often, yeah. The 100-year flood's supposed to happen
We've
every
had
100 years.
we've had 3 in 12 years, 2 in 5 years.
But what's happened, they measure the 100-year flood by rainfall first flooding event. The flooding events have increased all across the nation because there's more impervious surface.
Ultimately, they'll have
So
to
they're not equal.
They'll have to recalibrate
There,
that. Yeah.
well, I can say this, if you don't do anything, 5 years from now, you'll still be complaining. And why? Tammy, I'll guarantee will be in here saying my house is still being flooded.
What other questions?
I said it
what
with
other-
respect.
Yes.
Not picking on
It's
you.
been, it's been a
I love
long
you.
evening. What other questions can we answer?
Yeah, sorry.
No, it's great information, we appreciate it.
Very good.
Thank you
Well,
very
you know,
much.
people that live in these flood areas, that's their home.
Mhm.
They was
Yeah.
raised there.
Yes, and it's a huge education system. I have been on Tates Creek where they're dredging it to keep their land from flooding, and after we sit down and talk to them, they have a new appreciation. But I'm not trying to fight them, but dredging is not the solution.
But I've tried to get my mother, she's got a lot right beside me and she won't move.
Let's move on.
Right.
Let's move on about that. Let's move on. Thank you all. I really appreciate it. Item
for your
3,
time.
second reading of an ordinance amending the City of Moorhead, Kentucky's annual budget.
Back
Hold on
up
a minute.
on.
Back up,
Emergency
flood
response plan. Sorry.
Well, all right, I know Greg's not here, Jim's here to answer any questions. I wish I had something,
It's up to you all. Does council want to leave
Does
that?
council want this, or should we take it with us?
we've got one.
We've got it. Go ahead and take that.
All right.
Yeah, get those. Get those easy.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Beth.
I wish I had something positive to report, but Dave Dummer and I have talked about this multiple times, and of course, he brought this up in the flood committee about an ability to actually enact volunteers or people to respond to help in a flood type situation, help our businesses. FEMA has a plan, it's called a CERT team,
Hey, Tammy.
which is basically a community emergency response team, where they're trained by the city, equipped and all that. I've had Joyce look at both of, or review both of the plans, and they're not something that basically the city liability-wise and so forth can do. The other one was an idea of the city and the county, and I had not talked to the county yet, about purchasing sand, keeping that sand over at the county garage or county property. Businesses, maintaining their own sandbags. The city and county providing, making them aware through the police department via the text, kind of like the code red, flash flood warning. And then at some point, they would come to pick up the sand. However, Jackson Weather Service in the last 2 years has issued 13 flash flood watches for our area. 2 have come to fruition. 1 was in the Hayes Crossing area and 1 was for the city. So our main problem is we don't know where it's going to happen or when it's going to happen. So the purchase of the sand for the businesses, sand only, county, we were hoping the county and the city could bring a dump truck of sand so many hours in advance for the businesses down to, say, the farmer's market. The businesses would be responsible for coming to pick it up, however they do that. They'd have their own volunteers they recruited to sandbag. But then we realized there's the possibility of running out of sand. You know, our manpower, we don't have the manpower to assist in ways like that. Tim will tell you, you know, if we're having a situation that's unknown, Public Works is out, you know, prepared to close roads, standing by, and you all know as well as I do, when we have heavy rains like that, it'll recede within a couple of hours. Come up real quick and go down real quick. With that said, Dave and I looked at every idea we could come up with, and there's nothing that we can come up with other than, you know, the study we're doing with Eclipse and other things that we're trying to do. That's our best option.
Well, and we're very fortunate, and I appreciate that, Beth. I know you have worked on it. We worked on it for over a year together. And she's taken lead on a lot of it, but one of the things that we have to understand is we're very fortunate, and Captain Blevins' brother's involved, Danny, with obviously over EMS and all that. We've got a swift water rescue team. We've got the best rescue personnel around. Matter of fact, they call us to all surrounding counties because we're so good. And so, you know, that's our first thing. Property is very important. Don't get me wrong. If I've got a $10 million bank, I want to protect it. But life is the most important. And so we have that well covered. Our last flood was in 2015, this time last year. It got up to 6 feet deep around Wendy's. We had the swift water team actually went in and rescued some people from the First Street, Short Street, and over in West Moorhead very quickly. So I feel good about that. As far as what we can do for property, we know where it is. We know where we flood. And fortunately, we've, good Lord bless us with not any flooding since then. However, chances of that flooding in those areas are going to happen again. We know that. That's what we have to look at. We have to look at lives first, property second, and we'll continue to look. We'll continue to look at other cities, and we'll continue to do that. But right now, I feel pretty confident in our safety response that we have. We're very blessed to have the group we have, and I hate to say we're in good shape, but I feel confident that our personnel is well trained, well manned. Also, with all the different agencies, I think we're fine there.
And we
Property's
looked at-
another
yeah.
thing we got to look at.
We looked at everything possible that we thought might work on a volunteer basis, involving the community to help, and
It's hard to ask somebody to leave their house in a flood situation and go protect a building. You know, they got to take care of their house, and they got to take care of their persons of interest. So, I'm like you, I think we've done what we can at this point, but we will continue to look. And we've talked to everybody so far.
I'm sure you've checked with other towns of similar size, see what they have.
yes, and you know, one of the things Dave and I were talking about is, you know, you see on TV this sandbagging, and then one of the things I said to Dave is, you know, a lot of parishes or other states, you know, you gotta look at the size, the comparison of size, their public works, other things that those states and agencies may have that we don't. And a town of our size, resource-wise, you know, how many dump trucks do we have, Tim? Two. You have a flash flood watch warning, and we say that we're gonna send one dump truck to get sand, county brings one, and how many businesses that you want that have sand? What if we run out of sand halfway through it, and half the businesses get it and half of them don't? You know, we'd love to help provide that to our citizens, but, you know,
I see the problem.
yeah.
Well, the places we see sandbagging and see that where that helps those places, they get flooded once a month.
Yeah.
We've had it twice. It's still, we don't like it. It's twice in 5 years, but they do that because that's a regular occurrence.
Right.
Ours is, you know, like I
And
said,
you
act
don't
of
know where
God
the city
twice
is.
in 5 years. But any other questions for Beth on that, or Tim's here if he can answer any questions? I know Tim, the clean out. April's not here; she punched me. The regular maintenance we do on our streams that really help, haven't it? And our culverts. Just, you know, we have them go out if there's a spoonful that needs to be cleaned out every month or whatever, they get it.
Not cleaned out.
Maintained, is what I'm trying to say. Because the Corps frowns upon the terminology clean out. All right. Any other questions or comments?
I'm gonna leave, but I'd like to say, you know, everybody that lives here in Moorhead or has family remembers the flood of 1937.
39, yeah.
Yeah, 39, and it wiped out. I mean, there was circus animals up in trees and lions downstream, and, you know, and it's just like Sam Kinison used to say about people in Africa where there was no food. Go to where the food is.
Yeah.
And it's kind of the same way with rebuilding and rebuilding and rebuilding in spots that flood. You know, I understand that it's family and it's property that they've owned all these years, but you know, you keep rebuilding in the same spot. This was long before the Army Corps of Engineers that farmers flooded all the time. It still floods. And like he said, you can't prevent a flood. But and what you try to do is you try to prepare for it, that kind of thing, but sometimes you just need to get out of the way. I mean, you know, I hope it works. I hope we don't see kayaks and boating docks floating down the creek, but, you know, I don't know that I'm real optimistic about it.
Thank you.
But it's beautiful.
Moving on next, second reading of an ordinance amending the City of Morehead, Kentucky's annual budget for fiscal year 2015 through 6/30/2016 by estimating revenues and resources and appropriating funds. But no, wait a minute, for the operation of city government budget amendment number 3.
You couldn't get all of
Any
it.
discussion?
Yeah, and maybe I'm just looking at this wrong, but, so, we're showing $100,000 in the municipal road aid. And we're showing that both on the revenue side and then on page 14 as the expenditures for that road aid. But yet, we're still showing a full $300,000 of expense for the retaining wall capital. Are the others just kind of notes to that? I almost felt like it was $100,000 off.
What page are you on, Glenn?
Start with page 13 at the top.
You thought it should be a net of 200, not 300.
On the capital,
Yeah.
maybe it should.
Joe,
See
where's
what
Joe?
I'm saying?
Yeah,
It's a total of 300, right?
It's total 300.
Well, we're showing a budget amendment to bring in an additional $100,000 on the revenue side for the road aid, and then we're showing that down here as a special expense of $100,000 on page 14. But yet, in our capital expenditure, we're showing 300,000.
so I will change that to 200.
Well, make sure, but-
Yeah, I'll make sure.
That's
like
my
$100,000
understanding, right?
Right. $300,000 cost in the project, we received $100,000 from
So now we're down to
rural
two.
road aid. That brings us down to $200,000 coming out of wherever it's allocated general fund.
Is that what you want to know?
That's the correct math.
I'm hoping. It's $100,000.
I know the
I'll make
$100,000 is
sure to
emailed.
Yeah, just make sure, I mean, it's, again, I'm the one that doesn't print them all off. But, I mean, it seemed to me like, we had an amendment to put the $100,000 coming in on revenue on page, what was it, 3? And then on page 13, we show it going out of the special expenditures, municipal road aid, but then we still show the full $300,000 for our capital expense.
We can get with Joe and double check all that and get it back to Glenn on that.
And I can make sure.
And I'm sorry, I didn't catch that.